Good evening. Pub and restaurant owners across the West are tonight questioning whether the government's new rescue scheme can help save thousands of jobs. Today, the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, announced new measures to help companies hit by the pandemic. From November, furlough will end and a new part-time work scheme will begin. But will it be enough to help the hospitality industry struggling with new restrictions which start tonight? Well, our business correspondent Dave Harvey is in Bristol city centre for us now. Dave.
Good evening, Alex, on what is, by any stretch, a huge day, another huge day in this coronavirus saga. And I have to say that pubs, bars and restaurants in Bristol city centre and across the West Country are really centre stage. Because, as you say, tonight, not only do they have to keep their customers further apart, now they have to shut an hour earlier or 2 hours earlier at 10 o'clock. Less time, of course, to make any money. So the Chancellor clearly had them in mind when he made his big announcements today. First, a VAT cut. The VAT cut from 20% to 5% already applying to food and drink in pubs and bars and restaurants. That will be extended not from January but all the way out till March. But then a controversial new scheme to support the wages of people in part-time work. And as I've been finding out, that has really got them scratching their heads.
We've always understood our role and our responsibility to assist the government and assist the South West in controlling the virus. But yes, this will make for a pretty challenging autumn and winter, I think.
It seems a world away from Westminster, the comfort of a Somerset pub. But of course, everything is touched by this virus. So move around inside a lovely Somerset pub like this. You've got to keep your mask on. But find a seat by a table, preferably by a nice fire if you can, and then you can settle down, masks off with your friends. Of course, you get your phone out to order on the app. Thank you very much. No plastic screens here. People are protected by old window panels, and it's a happy, rustic atmosphere. But there are fewer people, especially on busy weekend nights. So today, the Chancellor offered a new scheme to, well, help out.
The government will directly support the wages of people in work.
If there's only enough work for a third of someone's normal hours, the government will help, adding another fifth of their wages and asking the employer to do the same, leaving staff with over 3/4 of their normal pay. But do the maths add up for employers?
There seems to be very little common sense applied to this. I don't think anybody would understand why it would make sense for an employer to be paying a colleague over half of their normal wages for working a third of their normal hours. That seems a very strange thing to ask us to do.
Tonight, as the small print is published, many other bosses are also scratching their heads. Well, we've come inside the number 1 Harbourside bar here. We're sat at a table so we can have the masks off, and I'm with Liam Stock, who's the manager here. So this place is normally heaving at 10 o'clock at night. What do you think it'll be tonight, Liam?
Yeah, it's in the week it's generally not crazy busy. It's definitely the weekends it will massively affect us. Tonight, I think, you know, we've just got to take it as it goes. Maybe people are going to come out earlier, and they will be busy earlier on because they know they've got to cram their time in, essentially. So, yeah, we've just got to be optimistic, hope people are still wanting to go out because we need it, essentially.
What about when everyone's out at the same time? Are you worried about that kind of, big chuck-out crowds effectively?
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, in this strip, for example, everywhere closes at different times and it's busy on the weekend. So it's going to create a massive funnel effect in the area where everyone's just out together at the same time. And because you've got to be strict on 10 o'clock, that's a bit of a worry, yeah. OK, so that'll be a tricky one. I tell you what, the restaurant and pub industry has been really through it. And just to get an idea of that, today we heard from a famous Cheltenham restaurant that has decided to close its doors. Andrew Kojima, known to many as Kodge, the MasterChef finalist, finally decided it was too much. He's been talking to our Gloucestershire reporter, Steve Nips.
I'm feeling desperately sad because we just had our 3rd birthday that week when we closed down. I was looking forward to a bit more cash flow because we paid off a lease. We'd hit a rhythm. We'd won awards. We felt good about what we were doing, and the customers were saying that. So
Kodge said he gave his Japanese restaurant a good 3 years. His last service was in March, and then COVID hit. And now reopening under restrictions means the numbers no longer add up.
I'm more nervous about laying down the money that is required to reopen. What happened earlier this week crystallised that fear in my mind. It was bad enough having to close, then reopen, incur the costs of doing that, only to be closed again or be really hampered by our financial position. My head had to rule my heart on this one.
Whereas before it was the other way around.
When we opened, it was all about heart, passion, excitement, and I take that away. I love doing it, but it's just sad that it's ended sooner than I would have liked.
People want to come out. People want to eat nice food. People want to enjoy themselves.
As Kodge closes, across town, another MasterChef alumni has opened a restaurant. It isn't how former Gloucester and England rugby captain Phil Vickery envisaged his new venture, but he told me he's gone feet first into making a go of it.
We're all table service anyway, and because we're a small restaurant, it suits the way that we're set up as far as the social distancing. We're all COVID compliant. We've got sanitisation, QR codes with the NHS app, so you can track and trace. I'm not saying everything's okay. I mean, it's tough, but at the same time, there are lots of opportunities there. It's been a great challenge. I've never been prouder. I think the future is unknown, is uncertain, but it's also really positive. There's positive things out there as well. It's not just all negative.
There has to be positivity and passion in this sector, and for those carrying on, there's no choice but to try and make it through the pandemic. Steve Nibbs, BBC Points West, Cheltenham.
Well, what does it mean for people outside of the hospitality industry? Because, of course, this is affecting every kind of business across the West Country, wondering about whether to bring people back on furlough or not. Let's have a word with James Monk from Business West. You represent thousands of small firms across the West Country. Lots of questions about this new scheme. What do you think?
Well, those small firms and the medium-sized firms have been telling us all summer that if the furlough scheme just ended at the end of next month, it would be a catastrophe. So we've been lobbying all summer for something to replace it, and we're pleased that this has come out. It is certainly better than it stopping altogether. However, we recognise it's not going to save every sector, it's not going to work for every sector, it's not going to work for every business, and sadly, it's not going to save every job.
Goodness me. Well, it's very turbulent times, isn't it? Thank you very much for that, James. So that just gives you a sense of it, Alex. I think tonight lots of people will be going through all that small print, trying to work out whether these new measures do enough to keep the economy going in the West Country.